What it do, baby boo? Welcome, guys, to the 30-minute podcast. My name is Tito. I am your host on this podcast where every week for around 30 minutes I talk about what's on my mind or things that I see on the internet. And today's episode, guys, is going to be a good one. Trust me, very controversial as usual. Now, before we do dive into the episode, guys, if you're listening to this on an audio platform or a podcast platform rather, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Vibeo, whatever, please be sure to rate this podcast with as many stars as possible and leave a review too if you can. If you're watching this, because this is a video podcast which exists on YouTube, I do encourage you to subscribe, first of all, by clicking on that subscribe button, and like the video by clicking on the like button as well, okay? Do all that engagement, because that stuff actually really does matter. It helps the podcast, it helps me, it makes me happy, and it just helps to move the ministry forward. Yes, housekeeping out of the way. Today's episode, the title is Hypergamy and the Role That a Man's Income Plays to Women When They're Dating. Something like that. Let me try that again and read it from my notes this time around. Hypergamy and the role that a man's income or earning potential plays to a woman when she's picking a mate. Got that? Now, this episode or this title or topic came from a video I saw on YouTube recently on Grown Woman TV. Awesome channel, by the way. You guys should check them out. They talk about lots of relationship stuff. I've been watching them a lot in the past couple of weeks. And I saw this video where the host was talking to this young lady about, the challenges she's having in terms of meeting a man and dating and all that, right? And in the clip I'm about to show you, she talks about why her last relationship ended. Essentially, it ended because she earns well. She's been doing well for herself in her career and whatnot. But the man she was seeing, he was an entrepreneur. He wasn't doing as well. He wasn't pulling his weight, essentially, right? And it was interesting how she explained what happened or what led to the relationship ending. But what was more interesting was a comment in the comment section where somebody mentioned hypergamy. And to be honest, let me just make sure, hypergamy, right? To be honest, I wasn't too clear on what hypergamy meant. I've since Googled it and seen the definition, and I'll share the definition with you guys soon. Essentially, it's dating up, right? Just dating somebody who is of a better economic status than you are, essentially, so that they can take care of you. But yeah, the person made a comment about hypergamy. It was a bit of a rough comment and unfair, but there were one or two salient points in it. So I'll share that as well. But let's begin by watching the clip from Grown Woman TV. And in case you want to check that clip out on your own, let me see if I wrote down the name of... Okay, my phone always takes forever to open up when I'm trying to do these things. So the name of the video is How to Make Your Relationship Last Longer. That's what you should search for on YouTube. And it's on the YouTube channel Grown Woman TV. Now let's listen to the clip or watch the clip if you're watching this on YouTube. Here we go.
And successful even though I'm still single.
Yes. Okay. So tell me what caused the most recent relationship to end?
Okay. The most recent relationship ended just because my career and my life kind of elevated. Mm-hmm. And he was in the entrepreneurial space. I am only recently in the entrepreneurial space. I've always maintained having a 9-to-5. I've always maintained whether I had to have a full-time and a part-time job just as a security for myself. I've always made my own money and taken care of myself. So he was just on a different path than me, and it didn't, we kind of checked each other's boxes in every area but financially. Mm-hmm. And while I never wanted to be a woman that sort of was made to feel bad for making more money than my significant other, that's what it boiled down to in the end. Him not being able to really be comfortable with that, and also him not being willing to make sacrifices in the same manner I did as it came to my career and being financially secure. So we just weren't equally yoked in the financial space.
But so much so that it caused your breakup. What did that look like? How did that manifest?
It really, I'll say a year and a half, as I started making more money, we as a couple started acquiring more things, but it was one-sided. I was bringing in more money, and then there were things like whether it was moving into a house. We moved into a house, we bought 2 luxury vehicles, but it was more so coming out of my pocket. And he just wasn't really willing to make the sacrifice to maintain or keep the things that we had obtained in the course of the relationship. So it became a financial burden on me. Of course, that caused stress at home. If I'm getting up every day to go, if I'm getting promoted, then I'm having to go into work and show up there, and then he's at home.
Not doing anything.
Working on his entrepreneurial endeavors. But it got to a point where it was like, okay, where's the sacrifice? Like, I'm okay with you wanting to pursue your ambitions. That's A-okay with me, but you have to be in this partnership with me. And if we have bills, it can't be all on me.
Understood.
So, yeah, we just didn't agree in that realm. And it ended.
Understood. Yeah. So.
Okay. Now, when I first watched this, my first instinct was to think that it was the relationship ended because the man wasn't earning enough or earning as much as her or more than her, right? However, when I listened to it a second time around, it became apparent that, and it's from the things she said, which I'll highlight, right? It seemed as if the guy, he wasn't comfortable with her earning more than he was. And this is a very common situation or scenario whenever you find a woman who is earning very well and the man isn't earning as much. The man feels somewhat like insecure and emasculated, and it shows up in the relationship. It causes some kind of tension and resentment. And she pretty much said that some of the things she mentioned in that clip were, her career elevated. They checked each other's boxes except the financial box. And that I'm going to dwell on a lot more further on this episode. But the third thing was that she never wanted, yes, this is key, right? She said that she never wanted to be a woman who was made to feel bad for making more money. Meaning that, he kind of made her feel bad, essentially, for, earning more and just doing more things around the house, and he couldn't keep up, right? So she felt bad as a result. And finally, him not being able to make sacrifices like she did concerning career and financial security. She did mention that she's very proactive in terms of her career and making sure she's secure in her, in her lifestyle and everything. But it seemed as if he didn't have that kind of drive as well. So based on all these things she said, which I've just highlighted, it seems as if the guy was the issue, and his attitude towards her and her just earning more, essentially, and taking care of things. His attitude towards all that was what caused friction in the relationship and caused them to go their separate ways. Now let's move on to the hypergamy element and the comments in the comment section of that video. And first of all, let me give a bit of a trigger warning. The comments is a bit harsh. It's unfair. But like I said, there's a little bit of merit to it. The person did make a little bit of sense, or the person did say something I'm going to touch on, but he was a bit harsh in his delivery, I must say. Okay, here's the comments. It's from CS1156. They say, bingo. What do we say, fellas? Finances, finances, finances. She said it. Hypergamy is real, guys. Women want their men to make on their level or above financially. So if a man is making $80,000 annually, which puts him in the top 15% of all earners, how would this woman in this video qualify for said man? She's 35 years and above, or she's 35 plus rather, and overweight. Yikes. Men in the top 15% of earners, which doesn't include his height, masculinity, and charm that all women desire as well, will never go for an overweight 35-year-old when he can easily get a younger, more youthful and attractive woman ready to follow his program since he's in the top 10 of 15% of all men. Like I said, that was a bit of a harsh comment, but I see where the person is coming from, right? And when I read that comment, I was inclined to see it from the person's perspective and assume that the woman in the video is dating, or has been dating rather, to find somebody who earns more than she does, somebody who can take care of her. But like I said, when I listened to it a second time, that's not the case. She just, more than anything, seems like she just wanted somebody that is supportive, right? She doesn't want anyone, she's not particularly looking for anyone to match her in terms of income or surpass her, although she wouldn't mind that. And that brings me really to today's topic. Oh, before I do dive into thrashing it out, right? I think I should define what hypergamy is. So I Googled hypergamy, and hypergamy, so the colloquial, okay, so one of the answers essentially was hypergamy colloquially is referred to as dating up or marrying up. It's a term used in social science for the act or practice of a person dating or marrying a spouse of higher social status or sexual capital than themselves. Let's look at another definition. Hypergamy, the action of marrying or forming a sexual relationship with a person of a superior sociological or educational background. And like they said, it's essentially dating up. Now let's really get into the nuts and bolts of this thing, right? Women, based on, just evolution and sociology and how we've been socialized, right? Women tend to date or look for a partner, a spouse who can take care of them. And typically that is represented in a man who earns well or earns more than they do, because that's an indicator or a sign that the man can provide for both her and their children, right? And that, and like I said, from evolution and sociology, that's just the way we're wired as human beings. It's normal for a woman to want a man who can provide, and an indicator of provision is earning capacity and earning potential. So am I for hypergamy? Do I support it? Kind of. I can say fully that I understand it. I understand where it comes from, right? And I kind of support it. It makes sense. Women want these things, and we've been socialized, as human beings, they've been socialized to want these things. So it's understandable. So, these days with all these videos of men complaining about women only dating men for money, and if you only date someone because of money, that's a problem. But a woman prioritizing money and a man's earning potential, or that being a key indicator, a key factor when she's choosing a partner, it does make sense to me, right? Now, the challenge is, in these days that we live in and in this dating market, lots of people will say that women are doing very well for themselves. They have more degrees, better degrees. They're earning more than a lot of men. Not as many men are getting college degrees or advanced degrees as they once used to. There's so much data now about how things have changed and how men are kind of behind women economically and somewhat sociologically, right? And this shows itself or represents itself in an awkward way in the dating space, because, as I mentioned earlier, women tend to look for a partner based on his ability to provide, largely based on his ability to provide, which is indicated by earning potential. But now that we find ourselves in this unique situation where men aren't earning as much as women, what is a woman to do? What is a woman to do? And it's not just a challenge for them, it's a challenge for us men too, because many men they don't know how to handle it when a woman earns more, which I think is really the case with this lady in the video. She said it herself. He checked every other box except the financial box. It seems as if him not being able to handle the fact that she was earning more and he was earning less, he wasn't able to handle it or deal with it, and that ultimately ended their relationship, I assume. And that brings me to this thing that came to my mind when I watched the video. Ladies, please let me know in the comment section or shoot me a DM. If you find yourself in a situation where you're seeing a guy, or you meet a guy, or you're dating a guy, and he checks off all the other boxes. He's emotionally intelligent. He's a man of faith. He has a great relationship with his God. He dresses nice. He's a great communicator. He listens. He speaks well. He's sociable. He has a great sense of humor. He has good personal hygiene. He's thoughtful and considerate. He's even romantic. If he checks off all those boxes, but he doesn't earn well, he doesn't earn as much as you, or he doesn't earn well, ladies, will you proceed further with that guy? Will the relationship last, or will you break up with him? Or even if you're just like in the talking stage, or you just meet the guy and he checks off all those boxes, but you discover that he doesn't earn well, will you continue seeing that guy and continue pursuing something with that guy, or will it end there and then because he doesn't earn well or he doesn't earn as much as you? So that's the question that came to my mind. Will a woman be ready to cast a guy aside solely because of economic status and his ability to earn money? It's tricky. I think it's tricky, and I think there's so many other things involved. And I think that's the main problem. Okay, if you ask me, right, my own opinion is that I think lots of women won't mind dating a guy or even settling down with a guy who earns a decent income, even though he doesn't earn as much as she does. I think women won't mind dating that kind of guy as long as he checks off pretty much all the other boxes, almost all the other boxes, in terms of being faithful, emotionally intelligent, a great relationship with God, and he's faithful and he's accountable and he's a great communicator. All those things I mentioned earlier. If he checks off all those boxes and he's not insecure by the fact that he doesn't earn as much as she does, I think women will be willing to stay in that relationship and work things out, and they could actually be happy in such relationships. The problem is with a lot of guys, even if they do check off all those boxes, we tend to be quite insecure and feel somewhat emasculated when our woman is paying the bills and, living a certain kind of lifestyle and traveling and just looking like she's ahead financially. Lots of men do not know how to handle it, and we don't know how to communicate that insecurity as well. So that frustrates the woman and frustrates the relationship, and it just causes so much tension in the relationship. So I think that's the reasoning of women, in the sense that, yes, I'd be willing to date a guy who doesn't earn as much, but will he be able to handle the fact that he doesn't earn as much? Or will he be insecure, and will he victimize me and make me feel weird or make me feel bad that I'm doing well in my career? So that is the challenge. And that's why I can't safely or confidently say that women should consider men who don't earn as much as they do, or who don't earn as much as they do. Let me just leave it at that. I can't safely say that, because they may open their dating pool to those guys, but then they find themselves in a relationship or talking to those guys, but yet they become very insecure by the fact that the woman earns way more than they do, or just even more than they do, even if it's just marginally, right? So that's the challenge. So maybe the solution is for men to learn how to handle the fact that a woman earns more and is bringing more to the home financially and whatnot, and that type of thing. And people need to have those conversations, those awkward and uncomfortable conversations about, the reality of a woman earning more in a relationship and paying more bills, or just being able to afford a certain kind of lifestyle. How are we going to handle it between ourselves? What's our policy going to be, with this dynamic regarding our friends or society and the outside world? Are we going to hide the fact that the woman, that, she's earning more than he is? Or are we going to be open about it? And I think the reality of life today is that, and even for generations, is that there are lots of women, and I'm sure uncles or aunties or family friends that are in this situation as well, where the woman earns way more and is pretty much sustaining the household, and the man is, but, people think that it's the man who is running things and providing economically. They're just keeping it very in-house. They're keeping it quiet. They're managing the situation. I think that's more common than we think. It's not the desired situation, but I think lots of Gen X and Boomer relationships or marriages went through that and are going through that and have figured it out. They've hacked it, and they're chugging along, right? But us millennials and Gen Zs, I think it's harder for us to live that life, or to crack that code of a woman being ahead economically and the man following and just basically keeping up appearances. I think it's challenging. And I think it's challenging because, once again, people are not having those hard and tough conversations about finances and what they're going to do and how they're going to handle the fact that the woman is earning more. Now, sticking on this issue of women earning more, Matthew Hussey, the famous dating and relationship coach, said in an interview with Chris Williamson, I believe his name is. It was a very interesting podcast episode. If I can find the clip, I'll put it up on as part of this episode. But what Matthew Hussey said was, and Matthew Hussey counsels and talks to lots of women who are in relationship issues or who are trying to find a mate or find a man and date and all that stuff. He said on that episode of the podcast that he would think, or you would think, that a woman who earns well, who can take care of herself financially, who doesn't need a man's money, you would think that that fact would open up her dating pool to way more men. Because for many women, they want a man who earns well, who earns more, right? And as a result, since there are not that many men who earn very well, their dating pool is very narrow, it's very small. So it would stand to reason that a woman who has a great job, a great career, earns very well, and doesn't need a man's money, since money shouldn't ideally be a factor to her, since she has her money, her dating pool should ideally be much wider and bigger, because now she can accommodate men who do not earn more than she does or as much as she does.
I mean, look, there has to be some. I know that I've spoken to very successful groups of business women who are really playing at a high level.
Yep.
And sometimes in those circles, which, by the way, I don't think like the ultra high achieving, like type A, you're in that, like, made millions of dollars, like, that's a unique group of people. But I have experienced being in those circles where one of the first things I get asked is, well, how do I find someone who is also, playing at this level? And I always feel like saying at that point, isn't surely the reason to achieve all of this is so that you can choose anyone you want? Not so that you can kind of go, now that I'm in this top 0.5%, I need to find someone in that top 5% in a socioeconomic sphere. I always think to me, the reason to make money, the reason to build something or to just have a job that takes care of you and your family potentially, is so that you never need that from another person. And then you're free. Then you can really go, who is it I actually want? Who do I admire? Who shows up powerfully in my life?
Because she earns well, money is not such a big factor. So that factor is off the table. And as such, she has access to way more men. You would think that would be the reasoning of, a lot more women who find themselves in that situation. But incidentally, it's not. Many women who earn well also want to find a man who earns at least as well as they do. And that is a challenge for them and for the dating market, because men who earn well are being pursued by women who earn well as well, and pretty much every other woman, because every woman wants a man who earns well. But, his advice, Matthew Hussey's advice, was for women who earn well to broaden their scope and to accommodate and date men who do not earn as much as they do, since, money isn't really something that they need, since they have their own money, essentially. But like I said earlier, it's easier said than done. In theory, it makes sense, but in practice, it's tough, because men can be very insecure when they're dating a woman who earns more, not to mention a woman who earns significantly more. So yes, that's the question that came to mind, ladies, and that's what the question I wanted to pose to you guys, and pretty much why I decided to do this episode today. If you are talking to a guy or dating a guy who didn't earn as well, or who doesn't earn so much, but he checks off all the other boxes in terms of emotional intelligence and, spirituality, faithfulness, communication, all those things, would you still be in a relationship with that guy, or would you end it because he doesn't earn well? And on a final note, this issue of earning well, And I think this is the issue many women face when they date a man who doesn't earn well. It's not necessarily that he doesn't earn well. It's what's he doing to skill up, to advance himself, to earn more, to improve his earning capacity and potential. Is he just lazing about, playing PS5, watching TV while she's, slaving away at work and pursuing her career? Is he just being like a bum while she's doing all the work? Or is he being proactive about his career? Is he, taking exams and doing trainings and just skilling up and leveling up so that he can improve his earning capacity and potential and his ability to take care of himself and his woman? Because if he's doing that, I honestly believe that lots of women, even if he doesn't get to a point where he's earning as much as she is or earning more than she is, I think lots of women will still be quite happy or pleased to see that he's applying himself and he has a plan, he's on a course, and he's just, moving forward assiduously towards being better for himself and for her and for them as a family. I think that even that would suffice for most women, but sadly, I don't know, it just doesn't click to some guys, and we don't get it, right? But there are a few men who do get it, who do apply themselves, who are working hard, and like I said, even if they may never get to where their wife is financially because she's so far ahead, it's not necessarily an issue because there's progress being made and he's earning, and they're able to take care of the bills, and she doesn't feel like she's being left to handle everything or to do all the heavy lifting in the relationship. She sees the effort, she sees the sacrifice, and to be honest, sometimes that's just the least that women require, to see that commitment and that sacrifice. Yeah. Woo! Guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the 30-minute podcast. I've been wanting to talk about this particular topic for so long. It's not a topic that one can even address in one episode because there are just several, facets to this particular topic. There's earning as much as your partner. There's earning more than your partner. There's your attitude towards not earning as much as your partner. There's just several angles with which one can look at this particular topic of, money in relationships. And I plan to do those or talk about those angles on subsequent episodes of the podcast, because this whole money in relationship thing, it really does fascinate me. It's something that is an issue for me too in the dating space. And I think as I talk about it, I find answers, to be honest. It makes the dynamic a bit clearer to me, and it lets me know where I stand. Because like I said, many men that find themselves in that situation, we've just not been trained, or we've never found ourselves in that situation before. So we're just very green to the entire experience, and we don't know how to handle ourselves in those situations. So me talking about it, me researching it a bit more and understanding it, I think it just helps me to understand the situation and to know how to navigate that type of situation generally, or if I ever find myself in that type of situation. Personally, relationship-wise and marriage-wise, I would like to earn at least as much as my wife does or as my partner does. But, life is so dynamic. Life is full of ups and downs. There are times when one partner is up, the other partner is down, because of cases like maybe one is in the hospital or a health situation, or one partner has been laid off or something like that. So life is essentially ups and downs, right? I don't think in the course of anyone's marriage, one partner is always up and the other partner is always down financially or economically. I think it varies, right? So regardless of whatever the situation will be in my relationship or my marriage, I just want to know how to be able to handle it in the times when I'm, earning more, and in the times where maybe I may be earning less. Who knows? Because life, like I said, is dynamic and it's full of ups and downs. But suffice to say, I really do enjoy this particular topic and talking about money in relationships. So, hey, going forward, there will be more episodes like this one. Yeah? Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of the 30-minute podcast, or watching it, as the case may be. If you did watch this episode on YouTube, please do me a favor and like the episode by clicking on the like button just underneath the video, and subscribe to this channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. Please feel free to share this episode too with anyone who you feel will enjoy it. If you've had this conversation about money and relationships and men not being able to handle their partner's higher earning potential or capacity, or conversations of that nature, if you know anyone essentially who would enjoy this episode, please share it with them and talk about it. If you have any thoughts about what I've said in this episode, leave me a comment down below. Be sure to check out the full video, which is I think like 6 or 7 minutes on Grown Woman TV, if you want to see the entire video. She also talked about her relationship before that relationship that I showed on this episode. So if you're interested in just watching a bit more of that episode, head over to Grown Woman TV and search for the video, How to Make Your Relationship Last Longer. Thank you guys so much. This has been awesome. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.